Hi, this is Cole Smithy and your guide to what to see and what to avoid at the movies this week. Nick Broomfield is a hack documentarian with a penchant for exploitation and a nose for blood. Famous for such down and dirty documentaries as Kurt and Courtney about the doomed Nirvana lead singer and his wife, and Eileen, Life and Death of a Serial Killer about Florida prostitute and serial murderess Eileen Wuornos, Broomfield is a British poor man's version of Werner Herzog. Broomfield can't help but put himself front and center. For better and for worse, he vies for as much attention as he gives his subject. He doesn't know how to self-edit, and he doesn't care to learn. What he is prolific and lucky. He has a way of blundering into rich material from time to time. Broomfield has made at least 27 documentaries since 1996. Moreover, he is tireless when it comes to the number of people he's willing to interview for a project. It helps to be armed with this knowledge going into Tales of the Grim Sleeper so as not to be distracted from the illuminating social subtext that Broomfield uncovers with his clumsy, albeit hungry, filmic shovel. Arriving at a time in American politics when black citizens are bullied, brutalized, incarcerated, disappeared, and murdered daily by the country's legally immune militarized police force, and the white-dominated media is actually paying attention, Grim Sleeper uncovers another dark secret of systemic racist abuse that points to genocide by degree. The LAPD's conscious neglect of the female murder victims of one of Los Angeles' most active serial killers over a 20-year period is enough to make you sick. South Central LA resident Lonnie Franklin Jr. was arrested in 2010 on suspicion of killing 10 women during 25 years, beginning in 1985. Cops and journalists called Franklin the Grim Sleeper due to a long gap in the killings, unusual for serial killers. He is still awaiting trial. As we discover in the documentary, the true number of Franklin's black female victims was likely north of 150. Had it not been for Christine Pielsek's investigative cover feature for LA Weekly in 2008, it's likely that Franklin would still be at large and that more black women would have been killed. His preferred methods were strangulation and shooting with his trademark .25 caliber handgun. Lonnie Franklin Jr.'s killing spree contributed to South Central's reputation as having the highest homicide rate in all of Los Angeles County, yet the LAPD wasn't concerned with catching him or even acknowledging that a serial killer was on the loose. Broomfield prowls the sunny, crime-riddled neighborhood where Franklin lived and carried out his murderous activities against crack whores, many of whom he lured with drugs and alcohol to have sex with or to pose nude for the amateur camera club that he shared with his neighborhood pals, Steve, Gary, and Richard. Returning interviews with Franklin's buddies, who initially stand up for their friend, gradually turn to condemning facts that point to a sick individual on a lethal revenge crusade against women. Questions about how much his wife or teenaged son knew about his activities hang in the air. Even the otherwise gregarious Broomfield doesn't have the guts to approach Lonnie Franklin Jr.'s wife about her husband's strange habits. The filmmaker gets lucky when he wins over Pamela Brooks, a retired prostitute and recovered drug addict whose survival skills are something to behold. Brooks is one tough broad, and she fearlessly leads Broomfield's efforts to track down other women who had run-ins with Franklin during the years when he would patrol the neighborhood in a church van or a hatchback Pinto looking for women to woo and attack. The documentary hits another gear of revelations as Brooks brings forth survivors of Franklin's attacks to describe their near-death encounters.
Black women, we don't mean nothing to them.
The lack of concern allowed for this hunting ground. I tell my own son, whatever you do, do not call 911.
Tales of the Grim Reaper throws another chapter of damning accusations at America's openly racist authoritarian system that surreptitiously condones the murder of its black citizens. Call it what it is, genocide by degree. I give this good documentary a B. My sleeper pick is Antarctic Edge 70 Degrees South, and my guilty pleasure pick is Kung Fu Killer. My must-have DVDs are Antarctica: A Year on Ice from Music Box Films, Mario Bava's Evil Eye from Kino Classics, and The Man with Iron Fists 2 from Universal. Live Flesh is one of iconic Spanish director Pedro Almodóvar's most overlooked and underrated films. It is one of the flamboyant filmmaker's clearest manifestations of his signature melodramatic style, with a personalized homage to Spanish culture during and after Francisco Franco's dictatorship. Distinguished by its soap opera presentation, Almodóvar makes pointed political statements that bruise. British author Ruth Rendell's 1986 novel supplies the narrative form Almodóvar transmutes to serve his goal. A story of secretly shared bedfellows begins with the birth of a boy. Almodóvar's later muse, Penelope Cruz, plays a pregnant prostitute with the majestic name of Isabel Plaza Caballero. On Christmas Eve 1970, Isabel's water breaks in the middle of the night while she rides a public bus guided by a put-upon driver who wonders aloud why he, out of 30,000 other bus drivers in Madrid, has to put up with the inconvenience of pulling over so that a rider can give birth. Isabel names her son Victor. Spain is silenced under a state-decreed state of emergency. Freedom under the state is the exception, is spray-painted on a wall behind the parked bus. Mother and son are rewarded for their public transport birth with free lifetime bus passes. Little good it does. 20 years later, Victor runs into a bad luck situation with Elena, played by Francesca Neri, a junkie prostitute who lands him in prison for shooting David, an undercover cop played by Javier Bardem. Never mind that David's police partner Sancho, played by Jose Sancho, pulled Victor's finger on the trigger. As we discover, Sancho knew that his partner David had been sleeping with his wife Clara, played by Angela Molina, and made the most of a violent opportunity. David is living as a wheelchair-bound paraplegic as a result of the shooting when Victor is released from prison 6 years later. Spain has changed as much as David and Victor have. Where the streets were once empty because people hid inside their homes, Madrid now bustles with crowded streets. David has married Elena. They have a special basketball court inside their house where he practices for the next Summer Paralympics. The recovered Elena runs an orphanage. Victor finds cold comfort in his recently deceased mother's squalid house in a desolate Madrid slum. He cherishes the inheritance she left him, 150,000 pesetas, roughly $1,300, imagining how many tricks she had to turn to save up this meager amount. While visiting his mother's grave, the well-intentioned but socially inept Victor observes David and Elena attending her father's funeral. Coincidence doubles down when Victor meets Clara, Sancho's abused wife, at the cemetery. Almodóvar uses cheeky Hitchcock-inspired framing to energize Clara's entrance as filmed through a wreath of flowers. Dressed in a leopard-patterned coat, Clara is on the make for Victor's long-simmering romantic enthusiasm. She proves to be an ideal teacher to Victor of all things carnal. Victor's string of erotic retribution extends to Elena, whose presence he shares daily while volunteering at her orphanage. The cinema of Pedro Almodóvar is more than just a cottage film industry in Spain. It reflects Spanish culture in urgent, romantic, erotic, and impulsive terms through a filter of refined cinematic philosophy. Almodóvar wears his influences on his sleeve. John Waters, Alfred Hitchcock, and Douglas Sirk serve as influences for Almodóvar to give a palpable sense of Spanish identity. All flesh lives and thrives here. Thanks for watching, and remember to turn your cell phones off when you're walking, driving, or watching a movie.